When I was preparing for this talk, I listened to that song a number of times. It's hard to listen to that song and not well up for me. And certainly hearing you sing it, even more so for me. So, even when the world needs so much more, and I love that Karen changed the lyric a little bit to even when we think the world needs more. But Carol Bayer Sager, who wrote the lyrics to this, wrote, "And even though the world needs so much more, there is so much to be thankful for." And that brings up the very first important thing for me, which is this understanding that we live in a world of choices. We have the opportunity every single day to focus on what the world needs or to what I am thankful for. So my first question to you today is, let's get real, bless you, and ask yourself, which of those two things do you find yourself most focusing on? What doesn't work in your life? What you need? What's not here? Or what you're grateful for? What you're thankful for? Because we teach a science that says, where your mind goes, there goes your life. And so when we live in a world where it's so easy to see what we need and what we're lacking and what's not happening for us, we also live in a world where it's so easy to see what is working for us and what we have and what we can be grateful for. That's why this month is so important. Thanksgiving is a beautiful holiday. I love the turkey. I love the parade. I love seeing the Broadway shows every year on the television. But it's one day. So we now have the opportunity to spend 30 days doing this. And truthfully, we should be spending a lifetime doing this. Because our minds are just geared up, ready to respond to us when we spend our lives living in gratitude, living as gratitude. So, many of you know I was in Philadelphia all week, Atlantic City for a couple days, then Philadelphia all week. And this concept of what do you want to look at in your life was really, really paramount for me this week. Just getting from Atlantic City to Philadelphia, Kevin and I really were not aware how many tolls there were between Atlantic City and Philadelphia, and how much change you needed in order to go through the quick change booth. And at one point, we were driving through this booth, and the woman that we had a 20, when we gave her the 20, you would have thought I spit on her. She just went, ugh. And I was just like, oh, wow, that hurts. But then I saw these trees behind her, and it was all the foliage of the East Coast. And it was just beautiful, gorgeous. And I turned to Kevin and I was like, we should be looking at the trees and not paying attention to what just happened. Because, of course, both of us went into, God, everybody seems so unhappy around here. And I was like, well, how would you feel sitting in a booth all day and someone hands you a 20? So I was, trying to figure out why she was feeling the way she was. It couldn't be what I was wearing. So I was just like, I get it. I totally get it. But you have the opportunity to focus on, I could have taken that, and people do, I'm sure, and that takes their day in a certain direction. So I want you to think about this for yourself. Where does your life go, and where do you let it take you? Do you focus on what's needed, or do you focus on what you already have? So this month is living, literally living in gratitude, being willing to live in gratitude. And I have this quote by John F. Kennedy. He said this: as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter the words, but to live by them. So, the question is, are you ready to live gratitude? Are you ready to spend your day in the energy of, in the love of, in the creative energy of that which is right in your life, that which is good in your life? So tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. starts the next round of CPR 15 rounds of this. And what I realize is that, just like Karen said, getting up early in the morning and focusing my mind on what it is I'm going to focus it on, really sets the trajectory for my day. And what I've decided to do with this CPR is throw everything out that I've done previously and make the entire month really be about gratitude, so that I can understand this. I live this understanding that gratitude is a prosperity magnet. As Pope Francis said, it lightens you up from the inside out. How can you have any room for lack if you are living in gratitude? There's just no room for it. And living in that energy brings with it everything that comes your way. A magnet attracts. And gratitude is a prosperity magnet. So, I went to Philadelphia, and I don't know, how many of you have ever gone back home after like 40 years? Just driven. Kevin was so sweet. When we were driving back from Atlantic City, I said, do you mind if I pull off this stop on the 95 freeway? Because this is where I used to live. He says, no, go ahead. So go ahead. I'm already talking like I'm from Philly. No, go ahead. So right, let's do it. So I pull off the freeway and I start driving, and the first thing I notice is how a neighborhood I grew up in has become so dilapidated, how it's changed so greatly. And then I started looking at the people in the neighborhood. And then I started noticing the Halloween decorations. And then I just started noticing that I was not noticing the right things. And how easy it is for us to veer off on judgment and opinion because we forget to look into the eyes of that person sitting there, standing there. And so then we drove up to my street where I grew up, and I don't know how many of you are on my Facebook page, but I took a picture literally sitting on the steps of the house that I grew up in for 20 years. And the crack that my brother put in the bricks when we were playing baseball, I know, hard to believe, but we were, he hit a ball and it smashed into the bricks, and my father had to come out and plaster a crack in the front of our house. Still there, the crack. These people live in this house, and the crack is still there. My mother's azalea bush is still right there. It has weathered all of these 40-some-odd years. And it's easy to look around that neighborhood and say to myself, wow, it's so different, but I lived at 7127. 2 doors down is a 91-year-old woman who was one of my dearest friends and teachers growing up. Still lives there. One of my best friends who I grew up with, who taught me how to sing. We sung together. Sang. We sang together. Every day, we would be guitars on the front steps singing. John Denver, Peter, Paul, and Mary, the Beatles. I'll tell you who they are later if you don't know. And so I saw the screen door open, and I had called to see if they were there. No one answered. So I went up and knocked on the door, and Kathy Rich is her name. She came to the door. And she's been here to this church. She came to the door, and she was in shock, And then I hear her mother. Now, Betty Rich has dementia. And I've talked at this congregation last time I was there when I went to see her in the hospital. And she had actually given me such a great lesson on God. Because she looked at me, and we were trying to explain to her I was a minister. She goes, oh, my God, you finally believe in God. Which I didn't know the impression I had made up to that point on her, but that was what she came to. So I walked into the house, and she just looked at me, and now, I am 61 years old, so I don't look a lot like I did when I was 15 or 14 or 10 when she knew me, or 6 when she knew me. But I walked in the door, and she went, Jimmy Mellon. And Kathleen was like, wow. I was like, yeah, it's me. And I sat down, and so someone who is going through, she's 91, she asks the same questions over and over again. The first thing she said to me, she said, are you married? Are you married yet? I said, yes, I am. She said, who did you marry? I said, Kevin. And she went, oh, that's right, you're gay. And then about 2 minutes later, she said, so have you married yet? And I said, I have. I married Kevin. She went, really? Oh. But Kathy said, he's gay, remember, Mom? Oh, right. What's gay? And so that was the conversation. And it went on and on and on like that for the half hour that I was there. But she did not forget me, because somewhere in the subconscious mind, everything is still perfectly intact. I could have focused on a 91-year-old woman in the last years of her life being kind of, doesn't have a lot of mobility, that doesn't maybe have a lot of her mind left in terms of knowing what she's supposed to know, as if anyone's supposed to know anything. I could have gone there. It could have been sad to be there and see this, but it wasn't, because there's two choices at all times. Because guess what? They're still there. My childhood is still there. They have stayed there all of these years. Kathleen is 63 years old, lives in the same house she was born in. They're still there. They've kept my childhood intact so that I could come visit, because of course it's all about me, right? But it's all about you. It's all about each and every one of us. How are we experiencing life? Are we willing to see it as good? Or do we see it as changed and different? And, oh, this doesn't work for me. There is good in every absolute possible thing to see. So then I get to my family's house, and I went home to do a wedding. And a wedding of the third generation of my family. There's my mother's generation, then there's my generation, then there would be my children's generation. So 3 generations. The grandmother is my great aunt Jerry, and then there's me, I'm her nephew, and then my cousin Robin, and then her daughter, who I was going to marry, her and her fiance. Jerry no longer walks. She's in a walker. She has debilitating pain in her body. My uncle is not in the greatest health. Many of my relatives are not in their greatest health. I could go home and be saddened by that. It could feel like, oh, this doesn't feel good. But that's not what I was willing to focus on. I was willing to focus on, they're still here, and they make me laugh, and I make them laugh. And when the wedding came around, there I was, a religious science minister, marrying my cousin in a very Catholic family that all of them just couldn't wait to see how I was going to make this work. And many of them really felt that I shouldn't be there, that it should be a priest. And I am not a priest, just saying. And I had a great time. I had a beautiful time. And most of them came up to me. One of my cousins came up to me and said, I want to join your church after this. Because we can see the good. We can see the oneness. We can see what makes us one as opposed to what makes us different. There's the two choices. I can live in gratitude for all the people on this universe, or I can see our differences and focus on that. And then my life goes down that road. So there was a moment during the wedding, at the reception, and Kevin and I were at the reception together, and it really was a very conservative room, very conservative group. And there was a slow dance that came on, and I turned to Kevin and I said, would you like to dance? We don't even give this a thought here in California. But in, Bristol County, Pennsylvania, he looked at me and went, I don't know, do you want to dance? And I said, I think we actually must. And he said, only if you really must. And so we got up and we started dancing. And everybody just danced around us, and then the music went fast. So we only had to slow dance for like 2 seconds. And I was like, there is a God. So then we got to just dance. But I could have had that feeling too, like, God, everybody's so different. I don't belong here. I don't fit in here. But I don't believe that. I believe there's only God. There's only one thing going on. And the room was just beautiful. And there was a moment I will never forget. My uncle, who was standing looking at the room. I walked over to him and I said, Uncle Al, is his name, Uncle Al. I said, Al, I want you to look at everybody in this room. They're all here because of you. You, as the father of the bride, have touched every single person, as the grandfather of the bride, have touched every single person in this room. From your daughter to your daughter's husband, to your daughter and her husband's daughter, to the new groom, all of it. All of this came from you, your choices in life, your decisions in life. And he said to me, I've never thought of it that way. And I could tell he was thinking some other things. People could very easily be thinking, is this my last wedding? Is this my last family gathering? But no. All of this is you. All of this is you. And then I had to say that to myself. All of this is me. I've touched every person here somehow. I've touched every person here somehow. And you, think about all the people you have touched in your life. If you were to stand at a gathering of every person you have ever touched in your life, every person you have ever showed love to, compassion to, every person you have ever taught, every person you have ever come in contact with and shown gratitude towards, let your light shine upon, it would be a stadium full of people with you standing in the middle and them all just looking at you saying, thank you, bless you, or thank you and bless you. This is what we get to spend this month doing. Being in gratitude for everything in our lives. And I know there are things in our lives, as it says in the song, that need work. And there's more. There is definitely more. More to know, more to be, more to create, more to experience, all of that. But there is also everything that there is. When you drive on the East Coast in the month of October, just stepping into November, God's paintbrush is spectacular. The colors of the trees, the sky at sunset, it's just breathtaking. I was saying this to Kevin, I said, couldn't you just, there's actually part of me that thinks I could live here. And Kevin said, let's come back in February, talk to me then. And I get his point, but I also love snow. I do, I love snow. I don't want to shovel it, but I love snow. So I want you to really think about the brush strokes that you are making in your life. That thing in you, that energy in you, that God in you is painting the most magnificent portraits and landscapes for you to see. Do you see them when you go through your day? When you wake up, do you see them? So, the title of my talk is The Art of Being Grateful. The Art of Being Grateful. Now, how many here would consider themselves an artist? Raise your hand. Real high. Okay. How many of you would not consider yourselves an artist? Okay, you're wrong. So, no, here's the thing. Here's what an artist is. Because you're probably thinking, I don't draw well, right? Or I don't paint well, right? Randy? I don't make stuff. Okay, so you sound like you're in my family. Right? So, an artist is someone who excels at something. That's all it is. And I know you excel at teaching. An artist is, bless you, an artist is someone who excels, is brilliant at something, some field. So we can be an artist in any field. Surgeons are artists. Doctors are artists. Ministers are artists. Practitioners are artists. Teachers are artists. Give me some more. Accountants are artists. Pianists are artists. Real estate agents are artists. Lawyers, believe it or not, lawyers are artists. Politicians. No, see? Boy, how quickly you turn. That's because you're over here. But if you come over here, politicians are artists. You better hope there's some really good artists out there that run this country, right? Not hope. Well, sometimes it's better than despair. So, but it's all, we can all be artists. We don't have to be painting landscapes. There was a painting in my bedroom, Kevin and mine's bedroom, of the Eiffel Tower. I barely recognized it. Oh my God, my aunt's going to watch this. I apologize for what I'm about to say. And I thought it was a really cute, nice, weird picture of a structure. And she came in and she said, "Did you see my painting?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "It's the Eiffel Tower." I said, "Of course it is." You know, but she's an artist. Just because I may think it's not a great replication of the Eiffel Tower doesn't mean it's not an artist. You are all artists. We are all artists. So this is the art of being grateful. So, are you willing to spend this month becoming an artist at being grateful? Are you willing to spend this month taking the time to say to yourself, I can be grateful at least 51% of the time? How many hands do I have for that? 51% of the time, you will spend this month being grateful. Keep your hands up. I want to see them. Okay. Anybody thinks they can't do that? 51, anybody? Dick Woody, you're just playing with your hand, right? Okay, good. I didn't know if you were going, I will not do this for 51% of the time. Okay, that's 51% of the time. How many people think they can make it to 60% of the time? How many people think they can make it to 75% of the time? 90% of the time? I'm taking notes. You think I can't see you? 100% of the time. Okay, 99% of the time. Okay, so here's the thing. Thank you, Cece. You've got 2 arms up there. So here's the thing. It's a choice, isn't it? Aren't we going to get to decide this? Who's deciding this for us? You, me. I'm the one that knows whether I can be. But that means I have to be willing to stay out of this side in a judgmental capacity. It's not bad for me to know that the world needs more. But so long as I know the world needs more because I am here to allow that more to come forward, that's okay. I know I want more in my life. You know, I'm spending these next 30 days knowing prosperity from the inside out, to know more, to be more, to allow for the more. So, here's what I have for you to do. Every single morning for the next 30 days. Now, the thing is, you missed this morning, and this is November 1st, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to fix that right now. Every single morning for the next 30 days, before you get out of bed, say it after me. Before I get out of bed. One more time. Before I get out of bed. Before you get out of bed, you are going to come up with 3 things that you are grateful for. 3 things. That's all. Simple. I already did it this morning. It was so easy. My husband, my children, and my home. Before I even got out of bed. My husband first, because he got out of bed 3 hours before me to go fix the park. So 3 things before you get out of bed. 3 things that you're grateful for. And then just sit there for a moment, please. Understanding why you're grateful for those things. Give yourself a minute to let it sink in. And then have at it. Have your day. And then before you go to bed at night, I want you to, when you climb back into bed, find 3 things that you are grateful for that day. 3 things that happened in that day that you are grateful for. So you start your day with knowing what you're grateful for, and you end your day being grateful for the spontaneous surprises that happen throughout the day. And I guarantee you, 30 days of that, your mind will adjust itself to living in gratitude. So do you think you can all do that? Yes. I think this is very simple, but I think it will really change things. When we left Philadelphia yesterday, we had a very long day of travel. And everywhere we went, people were smiling at us. People were giving us, they upgraded us when we got to our flight to come back to LA. Everything just played out beautifully. They upgraded us to these great seats, and the row across us was empty. We had the most amazing trip back with all this space. And I couldn't help but understand that gratitude from the inside out always allows the world to treat me from the outside in as a direct result of what I'm coming from. You are gratitude. You are this energy of life. You are the energy of giving and receiving. You are this. Gratitude is a verb. It's part of your DNA, your divine, natural appreciation of life. So today, I'm going to give you the opportunity right now. Just take a deep breath. I want you to come up with 3 things that you are grateful for. And then I just want you to sit with it for a moment. 3 things that you are grateful for. When you are grateful, you are full of greatness. You can't possibly be anything else when you live in gratitude. That's our month. We all get to do it. Have a great time doing it. There are going to be 3 weeks coming up after this. Next week, we're going to talk about grateful for everything that's happened thus far in our life. The next week, we will talk about grateful for what's happening right now. And the last week, we will talk about grateful for everything we know is coming. This whole month, we get to take our lives, dissect them, pull them apart, and find the gratitude in everything. Namaste.